Welcome to this second lesson on the Routh-Hurwitz Criterion. The last lesson taught us the basic concept of the criterion and showed us how to do it, but if you watch that lesson, as you should, at the end I noted that there are two exceptions that you need to watch out for. So today we're going to go over the two special cases that will cause us issues with the Routh-Hurwitz Criterion and how to overcome these issues. This lesson is based on the wonderful written lesson that Kushal put together, and as always, I recommend checking out the written lesson on CircuitBread.com as well. So let's start with this characteristic equation. It's a fifth-order polynomial, and there is a coefficient for each term. Everything looks good at first glance. However, forming the Routh array from the steps we learned in the last lesson, we find that there's a 0 in the first column of our array. This then leads to an undefined term for our s² row. We haven't been given the tools to handle this situation yet, but that's why you're here right now, right? So in this case, if the first element of any row in a Routh array becomes 0, then we replace that 0 with a small positive number, which is usually represented by an epsilon. Once we've done this, we still need to evaluate the stability. So we go back to the normal method. We look at the sign of the first element of the corresponding rows as epsilon approaches 0. Then we look for sign changes. As in this example, you may have to find some limits, so if you're rusty with your basic calculus, now is a good time to brush up on it. So we replace the 0 at s³ with epsilon, which yields 2 times epsilon plus 12 over epsilon for s². It immediately gets messy for s to the 1 as we multiply 2 epsilon plus 12 over epsilon by -12. We then subtract epsilon times 15, and all of this over 2 epsilon plus 12 over epsilon. It's a bit of a stretch to say this is simple, but it does simplify to -15 times epsilon squared plus 24 times epsilon plus 144 over 2 epsilon plus 12. Taking the limit as epsilon goes to 0, we can see that there is a sign change between the s² and the s rows, and then again between the s row and the s to the 0 row. Since we have a sign change, we know that the system is unstable and that there are 2 poles in the right half of the s-plane because there are 2 sign changes. Again, the way that we deal with the 0 in the first column is by replacing it with an epsilon that represents a very small number, and then, to calculate values, take the limit as that epsilon goes to 0. Then treat it like any other Routh array. So now let's talk about the second special case. We'll use the characteristic equation s³ plus 5s² plus 6s plus 30 equals 0. As we create the Routh array, we notice on the third row down that we have an entire row of zeros. In this case, we will need to create a polynomial based on the row above the row of zeros and then differentiate it. We have the 5 and the 30, so we create an auxiliary polynomial of 5s² plus 30. If you're confused why that isn't 30s, remember that as we're filling in the rows, we're putting down every other coefficient. As an example, if we had a higher order equation, it would be s to the 7th, s to the 5th, s³ and s, or s to the 6th, s to the 4th, s², and then just the coefficient. Okay, now taking the derivative of 5s² plus 30 yields 10s plus 0. We can now put that 10 and 0 back into that third row and continue down the line. We see that there are no sign changes, so this system is stable. But in reality, it's only marginally stable due to that row of zeros. I won't get into detail about why that is, but if you're interested, Kushal explains it in the written lesson. And now you know how to use the Routh-Hurwitz criterion even when things don't go the way you'd like. But before we move on to the root locus plot, we're going to do one more lesson on how to design for stability using the Routh-Hurwitz criterion, and finally, after doing it manually all this time, I'll show you how to do these things in Scilab with only a few lines of code. It's fantastic knowing what's going on and how to do things manually, but it is absolutely wonderful to do things about 20 times faster with a lot less chance of making a transcription error. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Today, we learned how to use the Routh-Hurwitz criterion when the first column had a 0 or when the entire row becomes zeros. Now we should be able to use it to find the stability of any system. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe, all that jazz, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care. Hey, I hope this tutorial was helpful. Did you need to take a break? Besides all of the tutorials, tools, and other purely educational stuff, CircuitBread.com offers several distractions like games, random history bites, posters that we think are cool, and some hopefully funny videos. Go check them out and let us know what you think.